What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Thank you very much for joining me here on Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture podcast. Very happy to have you with us, whether you are in the Anchor app, whether you are listening in podcast form, or if you are in the video version on YouTube, which you can find by searching for Pretty Dece on YouTube. So make sure you check that out. Let's jump into the news today. We are getting into superhero news. Of course, Sony is, we've talked about this a lot. They are the current rights holder to the Spider-Man films. So they have the rights to Spider-Man in the film version. And they recently kind of gave Spider-Man back to Marvel to let Marvel incorporate Spider-Man and Peter Parker into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that's how we got the Spider-Man film that Marvel produced. That's how we're going to get Spider-Man in, the upcoming Avengers films. That's how we got Spider-Man in, Captain America Civil War. It's really, really great that they gave kind of that up so he could be a part of the larger universe. However, they still retain the rights to the hero. They still have the ability to make Spider-Man movies, and they're utilizing that capability now by working on spin-off movies. So we know for a fact that they are working on Venom, and we know they're working on a movie called Silver and Black, which focuses on Silver Sable and the Black Cat. And we just found out via some rumors that have been reported on that their newest spin-off movie that they're working on is going to be based on Morbius the Living Vampire. Now, most of you out there are probably going, who the heck is Morbius the Living Vampire? If you are watching the video version, you can see some of the images of Morbius playing behind me right now. Morbius is exactly what his name says. He is essentially a living vampire. It's Dr. Michael Morbius. He was a medical doctor. He had a blood disease, and he was attempting to cure himself. He did so using vampire bats. He tried to cure his blood disease using vampire bats. And of course, as these things go, he happened to become a vampire himself. So he thirsts for blood. He became very bat-like in his appearance. Turned up nose, gray skin, and of course, it was the 70s, so he had to start dressing like, Dracula, of course, as well, because, that's what you do when you become a vampire, and it's 1970. So Morbius, has had some really good comics, and he's had some really bad comics. When he first came onto the scene in the 70s, he was very, very cheesy. It was exactly what you would expect. But kind of later, as we've gone along, he's transitioned from just being a pure foe to Spider-Man, a cheesy, haha, I'm a vampire type villain. He was essentially a universal monster that they could throw at Spider-Man. And luckily, as the years have gone on, people have stopped writing Morbius like that, and he's been a little bit more interesting as a character. And he's transitioned from being a pure foe to Spider-Man to kind of an anti-hero. He definitely has his needs, of course. He still lusts for blood, but he's kind of become this person who fights for the everyman. There was a really cool run of Morbius comics where basically he kind of worked his way into this underground world of monsters and was able to kind of help them and kind of be their doctor / their leader. Really, really interesting stuff, and a really cool take on the character. It was really neat to kind of get to see him do a bit more and not constantly be batted down by Spider-Man. He got to be in his own world, kind of full of monsters like himself. So, Morbius can be a really cool character, and I think a movie could be really, really good. I'm not going to rule it out right off the bat just because, Morbius is maybe an odd choice of Spider-Man villains. They made movies about Blade, for example, and those, for the time turned out very well. Better than a movie about Blade the Vampire Hunter really had any right to be. So Morbius, in 2018, 2019, whenever these come out, I think could be really, really well done. for their credit, they are giving this movie, it seems, over to Burke Sharpless and Matt Sazama. Those two are the writers of the Power Rangers reboot film, which, again, I liked very, very much. They did a really good job of taking something that maybe was initially very cheesy, the television Power Rangers series, and doing a really good job of modernizing it, making it cool, making it interesting, while still making it very true to the source material. So I have a lot of faith, I think, in those two guys for pinning a tale that toes that line between being true to the source material while also not being just ridiculously cheesy, which is definitely what Morbius the Living Vampire needs. It'll be really interesting to see kind of where else they go with these films as well. Venom with the Silver Sable Black Cat movie and with this one, because we don't know anything about them so far. We don't know if Spider-Man will appear in them, if there'll be, like a wink and a nod, inside the Marvel Universe, even though Sony can't necessarily say that they are. Or if there'll be just like a completely weird, random take on these characters that we've never seen before. We have no idea whatsoever. So it'll be definitely very interesting to find out. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me to talk about Morbius the Living Vampire here. Make sure you like Pretty Dece on Facebook at facebook.com/PrettyDeceShow. Follow Pretty Dece on Twitter at Pretty Dece Show. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow like always, but make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss a daily episode.